welcome to Seniorities. I am
We're
Linda
back.
Hayes. We are
We're back and better than ever.
If you missed us, if you knew we were gone, I'm Linda Hayes, Director of the Senior Center and the Council on Aging. And I'm with John Miller, J.D. Miller, who is the board chair for the Council on Aging Board, and my partner here for Seniorities. Glad to be back, glad to have you with us. So we've been on
Partner in
hiatus.
crime, I think you've used before.
I know,
that term,
I
yeah.
should have said that. Many crimes right now.
Right.
Speaking of which, we really have been on a almost 6-month hiatus, it seems, just because we have been otherwise occupied, busy ushering the Senior Center project to its current status at this time in August of 2019. So just as a very quick, brief recap or report on the status, we are waiting for our next meeting with the planning board, and in the meantime, they are helping us to iron out some final requirements to provide for the best site accommodations possible, really. The good news, bad news, the double-edged sword is this is a heavily used site, which is great. And what we have appreciated about the Senior Center being part of this Old Gate School site, along with recreation, and of course the fields and the tennis courts that remain there in the Historical Society buildings. But there is a lot to accommodate, and we are working it out, but just to be certain that there is sufficient parking, or maybe some new accommodations for parking for off hours, for evenings and weekends for that matter.
Parking, traffic flow, and right now recreation is busy.
They are
It's
busy.
their busy year, busy time of year, so.
So our senior center is planned for 70 spaces, which is an adequate amount for the senior center activities, with thoughts that, yes, perhaps in the future we would definitely want more parking, but at the same time we need to accommodate recreation, which has been using the existing spaces, which will remain in the back, but were being altered to provide a different kind of a lot than the circular driveway currently does. So anyway, some of those things are still being ironed out with the planning board, and that next hearing, hopefully to bring this to completion, is September 12th.
So we have engineering involved, we have traffic studies involved, we have, so there's stuff.
In the
Stuff
meantime,
going
our OPM, Owner's Project Manager, has been putting the job out for what's called pre-qualification of contractors and sub-trades. That's a long process and needs to be done before they are eligible to bid the job. So once the planning board has approved us, then the job goes to bid. So we're still hoping for and looking at October, November for the beginning of the construction and/or what activities have to go into the site construction. So anyway.
That's a real summary, because there's been a lot that's happened.
Right, there has been quite a bit to get us to this point. Appreciate everyone's patience and help and support, town administration, town departments, community, certainly some comments which have helped us to frame what, how to respond. And we hope. So,
Yes.
moving into our discussion for today, JD has the role of board chairperson for us and has been our chair for 2 years, and I think on the board for 5 years. Ooh. So
Actually, board chair for more than 2, I think.
Okay. All right.
More
Well,
like
and it's been a great relationship, and really the board has done a lot and come far, I think, from where it may have stood before. We have 9 full members right now, filling 2 openings,
Right.
with 2 new members through the Board of Selectmen.
Which should happen in the next month to 6 weeks, I think, right?
Yes. But that said, JD is no stranger to our field, working with older people in the community, because he is the owner and operator, sole proprietor of Home Care Partners in home care, which even for us in the field, sometimes there is some confusion out there. We have many clients who probably would benefit from what JD provides or his company provides, but sometimes don't know to come to us. There's lots out there. There's lots of varying, I think, organizations
Yes.
out there. So really making some sense about what home care is, or how many different things do you provide, or are there other entities that do provide similar activities? So do you want to start with a little bit about
yeah, I mean, and that
what it
still
is?
opens it up for a couple of different areas, but there are, where should I start? Mine is a private duty, private pay, personal care agency. So we provide home health aides generally to assist seniors in their homes on an hourly basis or on a live-in basis to provide some assistance in areas which I'll touch on in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
There are companies out there who are franchises,
Mm-hmm.
so they theoretically cover a certain geographic area. We do not. We cover anywhere between Framingham and Plymouth and everything in between.
Wow.
So there are franchises that may be providing, or theoretically restricted to certain areas. There are also, we talked about this a little bit offline very briefly, there are different models of care, if you will. Some are providing medical care,
Okay.
some are providing non-medical care.
Right.
So my business, Home Care Partners, is a private duty, non-medical home care agency providing personalized assistance for seniors. But we are not providing doctors, nurses to come into the home and do a diagnostic or
Yeah.
a diagnosis or an assessment of someone's health.
Right. Or even post-surgical or
Right.
post-hospital stays.
Right. I mean, when we get involved with cases that, and so sometimes a person who may transition, for example, from, they may transition from a hospital. They've been hospitalized, they've had surgery, or for whatever reason, they've been hospitalized. Now they're being sent home. What may happen there is the doctor or the discharge planner may provide a referral to a visiting nurse if that person needs medical assistance or even physical therapy while at home. And the VNA would maybe come in an hour 3 times a week for the first 2 weeks after being discharged to make sure that that person is, whatever, exercising their knee or getting up and moving around properly. I mean, they're no longer able to stay in a hospital bed,
Right.
but they're not quite fully functional. So the visiting nurse would maybe come in to do some of those kinds of things, and then as that person maybe gets better, or simultaneously, we might come in to provide longer assistance. So in other words, a visiting nurse might come in for an hour a day, 3 hours, 3 days a week. Well, so there's 24 hours in a day,
right.
1 hour of 45 minutes to do some physical therapy or to double check blood pressure, you name it. It goes pretty quickly, and then that person goes back to the couch and sits. What we might be doing then is making sure they're eating properly, bathing, have some company. So what we do, I mean, I kind of describe our services in very general ways in 3 areas. Number one, we provide safety and security, especially for someone who's living alone and has no other sort of social connection, if you will. So we provide safety and security, to set of eyes and ears in the home to help answer the door, answer the phone, make sure someone's not being put at risk with a senior scam, make sure the environment is safe, make sure that someone hasn't started a fire by putting something flammable in the microwave, which we've had happen. Or, also which we've had happen, make sure someone hasn't sort of absentmindedly put something on the stove and turned on the heat to warm it up, and then sort of forgot about what they were doing and went to the cellar and started cleaning out, the cellar closet. And next thing you know,
Do that now.
the water is burned off, the pan is starting to steam and smoke, setting off fire alarms. So we provide some supervisory, if you will, presence. We also made, literally just, I'm throwing out anecdotes here, but we may sort of manage the health and the time of the individual. For example, sometimes we found that, that we've had cases where our client needs to make sure that they take a nap every afternoon for an hour and a half. Well, sometimes after coming home from a hospital visit, friends and neighbors are trying to come over and knock on the door.
Sure.
And as much as that's a positive thing, it's not the right time for them to do that. So if we're able to answer the door and say, no, she's down right now taking a nap, can you come back at 4:30?
Right.
She'd love to say hello to you, but we don't want to wake her up right now. So again, managing the household, if you will.
Even medications, maybe?
So we, so that's just sort of keeping the environment safe. Secondly, what we may do is, we're coming into a living environment, is my catchphrase. And we, just like in your house and my house, their living environment has certain things that has to happen on a regular basis. That may be doing the laundry once a week. And so maybe the laundry is down a steep set of cellar stairs, it's difficult to get up and down. Maybe the laundry is down a hallway in an apartment building and down an elevator and across a parking lot to the building that's got the laundry, and that's a tough, sometimes, trek. So we may help do things like helping with the laundry, changing the bed sheets, obviously also laundry. We're gonna help to do things like light tidy up, pick up vacuuming and dusting, so cleaning the bathroom, running the dishwasher, putting the dirty dishes away, vacuuming the bedroom and the living room once a week. I mean, we'll do those kinds of things depending on if it needs to be done, but certainly on a regular basis, we know those things need to be done. Garbage cans got to get out to the end of the driveway every Tuesday morning for work, to be, and then somebody's got to bring those garbage cans back in. So we'll do all those kinds of things. We are almost seemingly helping people at some point during the day on our assignments at a mealtime.
Okay, meal prep. All right.
So whether it's morning or whether it's lunchtime or whether it's dinner time, we need to make sure, A, that they're eating properly, but also sometimes we just need to make sure that they're eating. What we've seen over the years is, it's probably a pretty classic situation is, let's say we're working with someone from 10 until 2. And at 1:30 they say, I'm not, don't worry about it, I'm not hungry right now, don't worry about lunch, I'll get it later.
Right. Sounds like my son.
Invariably, almost exclusively, it never happens.
Right.
They never make it for themselves. So then they end up skipping lunch, maybe having a cracker, maybe snacking on things that they shouldn't be snacking on to maybe get to dinner. And my point is always, a lot of these people are taking medications that need to be absorbed. So having an empty stomach is not the best scenario.
Absolutely not, right.
And or the other thing is, and I even go back to my parents, you'd say, are you hungry now? And they'd say, oh, no, I'm okay. But if you make it and put it in front of them, all of a sudden there's a stimuli there that says, oh, there's something that looks good here in front of me that I can see, maybe it's time for me to eat. So whether it's making something to make sure it's there for them visually and connect with them, or making sure that while we're there that they've had lunch or breakfast or dinner, so we make sure that they've eaten properly. We do, you mentioned medications. Yes, we do help with administering meds.
Reminding them that
Exactly.
it's time to do it. Yeah.
So generally, these days, most people, it seems like, have a pill dispenser.
Sure.
Monday morning pills, Monday afternoon pills, Monday evening pills, all through the week.
And it's a routine. they usually follow, I would
They
imagine.
usually
But sometimes
follow.
it's new.
Right.
So they're not accustomed.
Right. So if we're there on a Monday morning, we can easily double check the pill dispenser, and if it hasn't been opened, we can say, it's time to take your Monday morning pills. If it's obviously been taken, then we're good. But you know, they get confused.
Sure.
It does get to be a routine, but sometimes they lose track of the routine.
Oh, yeah,
They may double up,
sure. Oh,
or they may
easily.
skip.
Mhm.
And sometimes neither of those are, well, obviously neither of those are great options, but when they can't remember if they've taken it and they double up, then we're overloading the body with things that it shouldn't be
Right,
having
right.
in that quantity. So,
Sure.
yes, we do help with medication reminders, meal preparation, we just talked about.
I mean, simple hydration.
Right.
You think that that's a cause often of health concerns.
Absolutely, yeah. Light tidy up, pick up, vacuuming and dusting, we help, so my agency, we do help with personal care. Home Care Partners will help with bathing and toileting as needed. That is completely dependent upon the individual.
Mhm. If-
We've had cases where, you know, their mobility isn't great or their eyesight isn't great and they just need help getting to the bathroom, and then they're fine. Then they say,
Sure.
I'm fine, I'll be out in a minute.
Yeah.
Or they can't see to turn on the hot and cold water to get to the right temperature. Once we get to the right temperature, then they say, I'm fine,
Right.
I'll see
Right.
you when I'm done
Got it.
for a shower.
Yeah.
On the flip side, depending on where their needs are, we may help them with a shower chair and help them in that situation. And we may, there's maybe an accident, and maybe we'll have to tidy up and clean up in terms of the toileting, and therefore, now all of a sudden, we've got to, you know,
Yeah.
get some things in the washing machine and things
Right.
like that to clean up, but make sure that they're clean and dry.
Can you even evaluate sometimes for what accommodations may be necessary for someone, like, you know, you mentioned just a shower bar or something like that in a bathroom that would help them be safer?
Yep.
I mean, you might see that need and
Well,
recommend it, or?
I have a process, well, I mean, my process is most importantly to meet with the client in the client's home.
Yes, got it.
So that it enables me to see where they're living, how they're living, are there, you know, are they a fall risk, and are there throw rugs all over the house that maybe
Right.
they're tripping over?
Right.
Are there small steps that they're tripping over? Are they hoarders? Are they not able to even navigate the hallway because it's so stacked with things? Or there's wires all over the place because they're stringing a wire from one light to another light. So we want to see.
Oh, environment.
Yeah,
you know.
we want to see how they're living, where they're living, and yes, then we can, you know, make some recommendations of, would a grab bar help on the stairs?
Right.
Or at the top of the stairs? Would a grab bar help in the bathroom in terms of getting in and out of the shower stall? Or any of those kinds of things. Whereas lighting is, you know, are stairs a problem? Maybe we, you know, recommend bringing a bed down to the living room and moving out of the upstairs bedrooms and not having to worry about stairs anymore. So any and all those kinds of things. But so we start with an introductory meeting to simply see who they are, where they are, what their needs are, how they're processing the conversation.
Yeah,
Do you understand what we're saying?
yes.
So we do all those kinds of things. And actually, so just to finish my
Your three things.
my string here, the third area that we do help with is socialization.
Okay.
Many of the people that we're dealing with are widowed. They're alone. They may have kids out of state. The kids can call, but they're not around. So we may be the only face or voice that our clients see or talk to during the week.
If they can't get out of the home
Especially if they can't
on
get
their
right,
own.
especially if they can't get out of the home, or they don't want to get out of the home. So, and maybe getting out of the home is a little tricky because maybe they shouldn't be driving, but they still are. So we provide some socialization to be able to walk into the door and say, hey, how are you this morning?
Yeah.
You know, did you
Yeah.
watch the Red Sox
Yeah.
game last night? Or isn't it a beautiful day out there today? We also then sort of encourage them to try to stay involved in things that they love to do. We've gone and played tennis with our clients. We've gone to the backyard and helped in the gardening with our clients. More simply, it might be something like, let's take a walk around the block. Get out of the house. We make sure you're accompanied by someone who's next to you. You don't get disoriented. We make sure you're not a fall risk, but you get a little exercise and move around the house, because maybe you're only walking around from the living room to the kitchen and back to the living room into the bedroom.
Right.
So we help with socialization and some companionship. We may watch TV together. We may watch a movie together. We may get a pizza. We may go shopping.
You would, so not only is it in the home, but you could
Yes.
take them out,
And-
a person out to an activity that might be at the senior center, or if they need shopping.
How about, would you like to go out and go to the ocean and just sit and watch the waves for
Sure.
15 minutes?
Yeah.
Or we can accompany and assist and be a second set of eyes and ears for a doctor's appointment,
Yes, okay.
which
Well,
is important.
we have that. We have that need come up frequently.
Yeah.
that someone-
Yeah, I mean, think about, I just relate to my father, for example, who, and was not unlike other seniors. If he was in a doctor's appointment and had a conversation with a doctor, he walks out of that doctor's appointment and doesn't remember a thing and doesn't pay any attention to what the conversation was, right?
Right?
I gave the doctor all the answers the doctor wanted to hear, whether they were truthful or not, and now I'm done and I'm gone. Well,
Even I write things down.
right. So sometimes people don't process or hold on to that information.
Yes, that's
Sometimes
hard.
it's very helpful to have another set of eyes and ears in that meeting to make
Absolutely.
notes.
So much detail.
Right. So, yes, we will help with transportation issues when and if we can, with accompanying to a doctor's appointment, help around, help with some of those activities that we just mentioned, whether it's the gardening or the walking. We may just go out on the back patio and read books
Sure.
together,
Oh.
but it just all depends on the personalities that are involved. But those are the kinds of services that we provide
As well.
on an hourly
Yeah.
basis for families, for individuals. It may be, 2 to 3 hours once a week. It may be 2 to 3 hours once a day. It may be 24 hours, 7-day-a-week living, where we're living and working and
okay.
sleeping and eating in the family home, because now there's
Yeah.
3 extra bedrooms, and there's room to accommodate a staff person who's there all the time.
Well, of course, just listening to you, I mean, I have two very, I think, probably obvious questions, but really listening to you, who wouldn't want JD to be doing this for their elder
Well.
person? But at the same time, who are your employees, or who is your staff, or who is either qualified or hired best to do this kind of work for you?
Well, because we cover such a large area, or potentially can cover such a large area, it is difficult, or it's a voluminous geographic territory to cover.
Do you look for a certain certification? Is there an official designation?
I mean,
or
we're
not?
usually hiring a home health aid level, so an
Home health aid.
HHA certificate
Okay.
level, or even a CNA certificate
Okay,
level.
so CNA stands for,
Certified nursing assistant.
Okay.
I mean, it's still, a program, a process, a
Sure.
6-week or a month-long program that they've gone through.
Yeah.
Honestly, Linda, what we find is many of the staff that we have grown up in the industry and have had experience working in a nursing home or in
Okay.
an assisted living
Yeah.
facility,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
and they've either retired
Yeah.
or gotten laid off and want to continue.
Sure.
And so they're accustomed to working with people, to helping people. They've been trained to do that, and or we've
Yeah.
also had many people who like the fact that the services that we provide are more one-on-one.
Sure, yeah.
They're not
Yep.
trying to handle 14 different
Right.
beds
Yep.
on the third floor every day, all day long.
Yep.
They're able to do one-on-one,
Yep, I can see that.
more
Yeah.
consistent, more focused work with an interaction with people. So
So often, per diem or when available, it's not a full-time, unless
I
they
mean, it
happen to have
really-
a client who
right.
requires the 5 days a week or
Right,
the
it
7
just
days a
depends.
week.
It can be,
That's
you know,
nice.
4 hours a day, 3 days of the week.
Mhm.
It can be 5 days of the week, 3 hours a day from, 8 until 11 to make sure we get the breakfast, the bathing, the laundry, the med schedules done, and then that person's sort of at least gotten their day started, and then we may be done, but we'll come back the next
Sure.
day. Maybe we'll make the lunch and set the lunch out when we leave at 11 o'clock, so that it's there at 1:30 or 1 o'clock when they want to eat. It all just depends on the
Yeah.
individual.
So you mentioned private pay, so this is not an insurance-supported benefit?
Correct, it is not. Not for us, we are, yes, we are, so if we come in for 3 hours, 3 days of the week, at the end of the following week, we're billing that client for those 9 hours, and they're paying us directly. Now, it is, so the finances sort of spin this conversation into a huge different area. There are a couple of areas that people always should think about taking advantage of if they've already sort of aligned in these areas. One would be if they happen to have long-term care insurance. Long-term care insurance almost always has a rider for home care and a per diem. So that individual or family who have been paying into the long-term care insurance policy maybe for 10 or 15 years, now they're finally getting to the point where they're accessing some of those built up value. That rider will cover, it might cover 5 hours a day. So all of a sudden so in that case, we may be billing their insurance company. They don't need to worry about anything, and we get paid by their insurance company for the hours that we've put in. We also, my agency, Home Care Partners, we also do some specific work with the Veterans Administration.
I was going to ask that.
So there are a couple of benefits out there that we help people understand and maybe.
That have been veterans, or that are
Yes,
veterans?
yes. That they don't know about.
Yeah,
Because there's
okay.
a lot of things in the Veterans Administration in terms of benefits that people don't access, think about, or get told about. So there are some benefits out there that might help for providing some, that enable us to provide the services to the client, and we bill the VA, and the VA pays us directly. And then we also do get some occasional referrals from the VA. So, just yesterday I got a phone call from someone from the Brockton VA saying, I've got a client, or I've got a veteran case in name a town. Do you think you can help with that? So, and again, they're not in the position or the business of providing the staff, but if the veteran is qualified for any number of different reasons, they will, and it's not like they're paying for 7 days a week, 24-hour-a-day care, but there might be 6 to 8 to 12 to 15 hours a week, maybe 20 hours a week that the VA will pay for.
For in-home care,
For in-home care. So,
of any nature.
so we're able to provide those services and bill the VA, and the client, the veteran, doesn't have to worry about it.
Now, is there a standard hourly for your services, whether private pay by the client or through any sort of insurance, or does it depend on the service?
Well, I think the best answer there is it depends on the service and the agency. I actually try to be flexible about that. So when I go in to talk to a client and meet the client, as I mentioned, and do sort of an intake on and an assessment on where their competency and functionality is, I'll maybe make a determination on the cost. But other agencies may have their own policies. They may have maybe locked in at a certain dollar amount per hour. There also may be some agencies who will vary their hourly rate based on the time of day or the day of the week. Or to me, that's always gotten a little bit too confusing. So I just say, look, if it doesn't matter to me if it's Monday or if it's a weekend, here's our hourly rate.
Yeah, okay. Good.
But to your point, there are varying rates, and then the other area that people may access, for example, might be, there may be benefits for home care services available through an agency like Social Elder Services.
Yes.
So
So does that overlap with yours, or?
it does not, because that's a Medicare or Medicaid funded service. So they are not privately paying for their services. They're Social Elder Services is managing and maintaining sort of that case, again, through a referral to an agency, who then are billing Social Elder Services to then get chased down by Medicare and Medicaid to be reimbursed, to be paid.
Okay.
So there are
Yeah.
some other areas out
Yeah.
there.
Okay.
That's a little bit of a different business model.
Right,
I just made it,
right.
try to keep it as simple as possible. We're a private duty, private paid home care agency.
Which sounds really cool. That sounds great. And
You're not
we've,
ready
we've
yet.
talked. No, I'm not ready, but I could use the help.
Right.
Having resources. I mean, our community outreach person coordinator at the senior center certainly knows of the variety of available resources, sometimes through Social Elder Services, but also recommending private pay.
Yep.
Transportation in particular, an unmet need for us is when a client needs to get to a doctor's appointment, even though we could provide the ride, they need the companion.
Right.
They can't get in and out themselves. We don't have that to provide, we just have the ride.
Right.
Not literally, but our van service. So that would be something. Now, are there minimum number of hours?
There's something there, but we'd have to drill into each individual
Sometimes,
case,
sure.
because we're not like an on-call agency.
Right,
So you couldn't call us and say,
yeah. I'm
more
looking-
than likely, you wouldn't be able to call me and say, it's Tuesday, and I've got an appointment tomorrow, Wednesday, can you provide me transportation to get to the doctor's appointment? Well, because it's sort of a one-off.
Or if they were a client and that was their need, that is something
We'd be
you could
scheduled on
provide
that Wednesday
and/or-
to take them on that Wednesday.
Right,
Right. So
yeah.
we've done it, it's,
If we could no longer provide
Right.
that transportation service because that person needed a little bit more
right,
care.
and if I've got somebody who's available who can do
Yeah.
it, yes. But people
Yeah.
are more programmed to be sort of on a schedule as opposed to
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
being able to jump like that,
yeah.
depending on, so if we have enough lead time, sure, it's a possibility.
Wonderful. Well, that is really illuminating. I liked hearing about your description. Very
Good.
well done. How long have you been doing that?
I've been in business for getting close to 15+ years.
Very nice. And you do a lot of separate work with veterans, just ensuring that they know what benefits exist for them and trying to get that word out there for them.
I've
Or to them.
found that whole well, again, now we may be spinning off into a different tangent,
Yeah.
but there are a lot of benefits available for veterans. Some veterans are stubborn and don't want to even think about it, or don't want to have that involvement. My position is always, hey, look, you earned this, you may be eligible for some help, you are now expressing a need for some assistance, this may be an answer and a solution to that. I'm sorry, put your ego aside, it's time, you're 85 years old, and that was, 45 years ago when you
Right,
served.
right.
But you're eligible for some things that the VA might provide you. So there is a huge amount of intricacies in terms
Yeah.
of benefits that might be out there from a federal perspective, from the state of Massachusetts, which is different from New Hampshire and Texas and California, so each state has their own veterans benefits. The medical system provides benefits, there's prescription drug
Sure.
discounts for veterans. So
Yeah.
so the problem for me is always, none of those, I always call them silos when we're talking about veterans, federal, state, medical, even prescription, but none of those silos talk to each other. So if you're down here, there's no reason for anybody to give you information about what's going on the federal level that you might be eligible for. So it's very difficult to navigate. So you've got to have an advocate, you've got to look in and ask questions, you've got to make some phone calls, you've got to look up online, you can talk to me or the local veterans agent, but the local veterans agent is still gonna probably be doing Massachusetts veterans benefits, different from medical benefits
Right.
out of Brockton or
Yeah.
West Roxbury hospitals, different from a federal benefit.
Right.
So
Right.
it's a difficult
Yeah.
navigation.
Complex?
Yeah, very, very
Well,
complex.
very nice. Good to hear.
But there are benefits out there, and you may be eligible for them, and they may be providing you a solution or a part of a solution. Maybe not the full solution, 100%, but it might help a little,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
okay. And that gets you a little bit farther along to putting all the puzzle pieces together to build a plan that works.
Great.
So it's something people need to be aware of.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you. I think
My pleasure.
we kind of covered for today.
I'm glad.
I'm glad we had you.
You're
It's about
welcome.
time.
My pleasure.
All right, well, thank you also for listening, because I think that was valuable information, something we can continue to pursue in other episodes of Seniorities. Maybe
hope so.
look at some of the varieties.
Always,
Like that.
always interested. If you're always, anyone is eligible or if interested can look me up online. Website is name of the business, Home Care Partners, but with an MA from Massachusetts. So it's
Home Care Partners.
HOME Partners, Home Care Partners, PARTNERS as in Sam, MA.com. You can always call me at the office. Be happy to help. You can always
Great.
call
Well, you
Senior
can call the
Center and
Senior
ask for my
Center.
name.
Absolutely,
Right.
we can provide that information for JD as well.
Right.
Or through Jenny Gerbis, our outreach coordinator, who does keep a list, a booklet of resources available for all kinds of things if you have those questions. So, in conclusion, first of all, at the Senior Center, we're putting our newsletter to bed, as we speak, really, and so hopefully you get that for September, or are coming in for it regularly, but if not, call and get on our mailing list. We'll be back.
And if you have an email address, give us an email address.
We really would like that, absolutely. In fact, just getting in our system so that we can place you in a list for broadcast
Right.
calls or emails. We are going to be using
Big help.
Constant Contact soon.
Big help if
to
you have your
get a
email.
weekly update out to people whose emails we have, and that would be really advantageous.
Yep.
In the meantime, we will be back in a couple of weeks, and we'll talk more about what's coming up in the fall at the Senior Center, maybe have a bit more of a conclusion for you about the Senior Center project and the timing or time frame for that. I might mention as well, just because it is coming up, that we do have an unusual or unique workshop Wednesday, August 21st, which is just next week from today, but it's called The Path to Transformation, and it's just something we are happy to be pursuing for anyone considering what's next. So if you are just now retiring, thinking about retiring, had retired already in your 50s, in your 60s, in your 70s, and just wondering, what might I do now, following?
Right.
Then
With all my free time.
Our workshop facilitator, Susan Kelly, can help with that, but it's at the library's community room on Wednesday. We would like to have you register with us beforehand if you could, but it will be very valuable, and it's a little bit of a precursor to
Wednesday, what time?
10 o'clock in the morning, 10 to 12. So it's a 2-hour workshop, and we're happy to be providing that, and see it being useful, maybe long-term and ongoing if once we do it this first time. We also have the 50-plus job seekers networking group, not that what's next has to be work, but for those who may want to do that, that is beginning again in September, twice a month for both the fall sort of term and again in the winter, spring. So that's something you can call the Senior Center
How
about.
to transition those skills that you that you have that are translatable to another industry, another business.
Repackage or
Absolutely.
relearn,
Right.
and know what maybe differences exist today that you might want to be more
Yeah.
aware of. And so then lastly, we are also planning our second annual Family Fun Walk, which we started last year as an age-friendly initiative, but through the Council on Aging and the Senior Center, because walking and fitness is good at all ages and for all ages, certainly for walking. So we're planning that now. It will be Sunday, October 6th. If you are a walker or you have wanted to become a walker, there'd be 1 mile, 2 miles, 3 miles, something for everyone to work toward or to enjoy, whether with their family or their friends or their groups. So
Or their
look-
dog.
Or their
like-
dog.
like me last year.
Absolutely for their dog,
Yeah.
with their dog, I do that. So, more to come on that, and thank you again for listening and watching, and see you soon.
Thank you. See you soon.